The first bark shattered the silence like a gunshot, tanned in that instant. Everyone in the funeral hall understood something was terribly wrong. Not wrong in the quiet, grief-filled way funerals usually are, but wrong in a sharp, instinctive way that made skin prickle and heart seize. The German shepherd lunged forward, leash snapping tight. Furious barking echoing off the high ceilings as his eyes locked onto the coffin at the center of the room. A coffin that was supposed to hold a dead man. I share new stories here every day, and I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now, let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you'll love it if you keep listening till the end. Just minutes earlier, the hall had been wrapped in hushed sorrow. Soft sobs drifted through the air. Flowers lined the walls, their sweet scent clashing with the heaviness of loss. At the front lay the body of 22-year-old Ethan Carter, a college student whose life had supposedly ended in a late-night car accident. His face looked peaceful beneath the light. Too peaceful, some might have said. But grief has a way of silencing doubt. No one questioned it. No one wanted to. No one except the dog. Rex, a seasoned police canine, hadn't been brought to investigate anything. His handler, Officer Daniel Hayes, was only there to pay respects. Rex had attended countless public events, trained to remain calm amid crowds, noise, and emotion. He had walked past caskets before. He had never reacted like this. The moment Rex passed Ethan's coffin, his body stiffened as if an invisible switch had been flipped. His ears snapped forward. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest, traw, urgent, and wrong. Then he exploded into barking. Write in the comments and tell me which part of the world you're watching this story from. I'm really interested to see how far this story has traveled. People gasped. A woman near the front screamed and staggered back. Chairs scraped against the floor as mourners stood in confusion. The funeral director rushed forward, face flushed with anger and panic. "Get that dog out of here!" he hissed. Officer Hayes tightened his grip on the leash. "Rex, easy. He'll settle down." The commands meant nothing. Rex surged forward, claws scraping against polished wood as he reared up, placing his paws on the edge of the coffin. He barked directly at Ethan's face through the glass panel, teeth bared not in aggression, but in desperation. It was the same bark he used during search and rescue missions, the same frantic rhythm Hayes had heard when survivors were buried beneath rubble. This wasn't fear. This was an alert. "Sir, control your dog." Someone shouted. Hayes felt his pulse pounding in his ears. He had worked with Rex for 6 years. He trusted this dog with his life. And Rex had never been wrong. Something's not right. Hayes muttered. Rex suddenly lowered his head, pressing his nose close to the glass above Ethan's mouth. He sniffed hard, then barked again, short, sharp, rapid, over and over, as if time itself were running out. Hayes leaned closer, his breath catching. For a split second, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Then he saw it. A faint fog bloomed on the inside of the glass panel, then faded. Then appeared again. A whisper rippled through the room. "That's not possible." Hayes' stomach dropped. His hand trembled as he raised it, signaling the funeral director to stop. "Step back," Hayes said, voice firm now. Everyone, step back. Rex barked louder, tail rigid, body vibrating with urgency. Hayes reached for the latch of the coffin, and in that moment, before the lid was opened, before the truth was revealed, the entire room stood frozen between belief and disbelief. Unaware they were seconds away from witnessing something that would change every life inside that hall forever. The click of the coffin latch sounded, possibly loud, like a countdown echoing through the funeral hall. Every breath seemed to stop. Every eye fixed on Officer Hayes' hands as Rex's barking grew sharper, more frantic, as if urging him to hurry now. Now, now. "Sir, you can't do this," the funeral director protested, his voice cracking. This is a service. Hayes didn't look back. His instincts, sharpened by years on the force and anchored by unwavering trust in his partner, drowned out every objection. Rex had never reacted this way without reason. Never, slowly, deliberately. Hayes lifted the lid. The air shifted the moment it opened, a cold, heavy rush that cut through the floral scent hanging in the room. A collective gasp rippled through the mourners. Someone began to cry. Another person stumbled backward, whispering a prayer under their breath. Inside the coffin, Ethan Carter lay exactly as before, pale, still, peaceful, for half a second. Doubt slammed into Hayes' chest. Then Ethan's lips trembled. Barely, almost imperceptibly, Rex lunged forward again, barking wildly, his body straining against the leash. Hayes dropped to his knees beside the coffin, eyes locked on Ethan's chest. There, a faint rise, then another. "He's alive," Hayes said, his voice hoarse but steady. "Call an ambulance." Now, chaos erupted. Mourners shouted over one another. Someone ran for the doors. Another collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. The funeral director stood frozen, face drained of color, as if reality had shattered in front of him. Hayes loosened Ethan's tie and collar, pressing 2 fingers against his neck. A pulse weak, irregular, but undeniably there. "Stay with me, son," Hayes whispered. "You're not done yet." Rex circled the coffin, growling low and steady, his eyes never leaving Ethan. This wasn't fear anymore, was vigilance. Protection. Paramedics, who had been attending quietly at the back due to the large gathering, rushed forward with equipment. Oxygen masks appeared. Monitors beeped to life. Hands moved fast, precise, practiced. "What happened?" one medic asked. "I don't know," Hayes replied. But he was pronounced dead. "Car accident last night." The medic's eyes widened as he checked vitals. "This is barely stable." If this had gone on any longer, he didn't finish the sentence. As oxygen flowed, Ethan's eyelids fluttered. A weak, broken gasp escaped his lips, sending a fresh wave of shock through the room. His eyes cracked open, unfocused, terrified, as if waking from a nightmare he couldn't understand. "I can't," Ethan rasped. "You're safe," Hayes said quickly. "You're safe. Don't try to talk." From the front row, Ethan's mother screamed his name and tried to rush forward, only to be caught by family members as her legs gave out. Relief and horror tangled together, pouring out in sobs that shook her entire body. Rex approached the open coffin slowly now, carefully. He placed his head near Ethan's shoulder and let out a soft wheena sound so gentle it felt intimate, almost human. Ethan's eyes shifted. Somehow, through the confusion and fear, they locked onto the dog for the first time since waking. Ethan relaxed. The paramedics lifted him onto a stretcher, monitors beeping faster as his condition stabilized just enough to move. As they wheeled him toward the exit, the room parted in stunned silence. People watching as if witnessing someone return from the dead. Outside, sirens wailed to life. Inside, whispers spread like wildfire. How could this happen? They almost buried him. If that dog hadn't, Hayes stood back, heart hammering, watching Rex sit calmly beside him now. His job done, but his eyes still alert. This wasn't over. Hayes could feel it, because one question lingered heavier than all the others. If Ethan Carter wasn't dead, who or what had declared him so? The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and disbelief. Bright lights reflected off polished floors as doctors moved with urgent precision around Ethan Carter, their voices low but intense. Machines beeped steadily, now proof of life that still felt unreal to everyone who had stood beside his coffin less than an hour earlier. Officer Hayes watched from just outside the trauma room, Rex sitting rigidly at his side. The dog hadn't relaxed once since they arrived. His ears flicked at every sound, eyes tracking every movement through the glass as if some unseen threat still lingered. Hayes felt it too. Inside the room, a doctor stepped back, pulling off his gloves. "He's stable," she said, disbelief softening her professional tone. "Barely, but stable. Another few minutes without oxygen and we'd be having a very different conversation." Hayes exhaled for what felt like the first time all night. "What caused this?" he asked. The doctor hesitated. "We're running tests, but early signs point to a rare condition, something called cataleptic cardiac arrest. It can mimic death. Shallow breathing, undetectable pulse. It's extremely uncommon." "Uncommon doesn't begin to cover this," Hayes muttered down the hall. Ethan's parents sat clinging to each other, faces streaked with tears. Grief had transformed into shock, shock into fragile hope. Every few seconds, Ethan's mother looked up, as if afraid someone would tell her it wasn't real after all. A man in a dark suit approached Hayes, badge clipped to his belt. "Detective Laura Mills. Homicide." "We need to talk," she said quietly. Hayes frowned. "Homicide. This was a car accident." "So we were told," Mills replied. "But things aren't lining up." She pulled out a tablet and tilted it toward him. Photos of a crushed vehicle filled the screen, but something felt off. The damage was severe, yet strangely inconsistent. "The impact should have killed him instantly," Mills continued. "But the injuries don't fully support that. No catastrophic trauma. No internal bleeding to explain death." Hayes' jaw tightened. "So why was he pronounced dead?" "That's the problem," Mills said. "The first responder on scene wasn't a paramedic. It was a private medical contractor." Hayes' eyes narrowed. "Private." "They arrived unusually fast," Mills said. "Too fast. Signed off on death at the scene. No hospital transport. No extended evaluation." Rex suddenly growled low and deep. Both officers froze. Mills glanced down. "Your dog doesn't like this either, huh?" Hayes followed Rex's gaze. At the far end of the corridor, a man in scrubs stood near a vending machine, pretending to scroll on his phone. His posture was stiff. "Wrong." Rex rose to his feet. "Easy," Hayes murmured, but Rex didn't move toward the man. He simply watched him, muscles coiled. The man glanced up. The moment his eyes met Rex's, he flinched, then he turned and walked away, fast. Hayes didn't think. "Mills." They moved together, pace quickening as they followed down the corridor. The man ducked into a stairwell. Hayes pushed the door open just in time to see him descending rapidly. "Stop, police!" Mills shouted. The man bolted. Rex surged forward, leash slipping from Hayes' hand as the dog bounded down the stairs, claws thundering against concrete. The chase was short. A startled shout echoed, followed by a crash by the time Hayes reached the landing. Rex had the man pinned, teeth bared inches from his throat. "Don't move," Hayes ordered, snapping cuffs around the man's wrists as they searched him. Mills pulled a folded document from his pocket. Her face hardened as she read it. "This is a falsified death certificate," she said, signed and stamped. Hayes' blood ran cold. Someone had wanted Ethan Carter declared dead. Someone had wanted him in that coffin. Upstairs, a heart monitor beeped steadily, and beside Hayes, Rex finally sat down alert, unblinking, because even now, he knew one thing: the humans were only beginning to understand. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan, by dawn. The truth unraveled faster than anyone expected, and slower than anyone deserved. The interrogation room was cold, silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. The man in scrubs sat hunched forward, wrists cuffed to the table, sweat beading along his hairline. His name was Marcus Lane, not a doctor, not a paramedic, just a paid piece in a carefully hidden machine. Detective Mills slid the falsified death certificate across the table. You want to explain why you were in a hospital you don't work at? Carrying paperwork that nearly got a living man buried? Lane swallowed hard. I was told it was already done, he stammered. They said he was gone. I just had to make it official. Who is they? Hayes asked calmly. Rex, lying at his feet, eyes fixed on Lane with unsettling focus. Lane's gaze flicked to the dog, then away. A private firm, he said. Medical logistics. That's what they called it. They handle special cases. Special cases. Mills pressed. Lane's voice cracked. People with money. People who don't want questions. Accidents that aren't accidents. The room went quiet. Outside, morning light filtered through the hospital windows, casting pale gold across the hallway where Ethan Carter lay recovering. Tubes and wires surrounded him now, but his color had returned. Each breath came easier than the last. His parents sat close, afraid to blink, afraid the miracle might slip away if they did. Doctors confirmed it soon after. Ethan's condition was rare but real. A sudden cardiac episode that mimicked death almost perfectly. With the wrong hands on Senor, the wrong intentions became a death sentence. Lane talked, and with every word, the picture grew darker. The crash hadn't been meant to kill Ethan. It had been meant to stop him. Ethan had unknowingly uncovered financial records tied to the same private firm while working a part-time data job at his university. He hadn't even realized what he'd found before. Someone decided it was easier to erase him than silence. Him declaring him dead was supposed to be clean. Quiet. Final no autopsy. No questions, no Rex. When Hayes visited Ethan later that morning, the room felt different, lighter, grounded in something close to awe. Ethan turned his head slowly as Rex approached, the dog's nails clicking softly on the tile. That's him, Ethan whispered. The dog. Hayes smiled. Yeah, that's him. Rex rested his head gently against Ethan's bed, tail giving a slow, careful wag. Ethan lifted a trembling hand and placed it on Rex's fur. I don't remember much, Ethan said softly. Just darkness. And then barking. Like someone was calling me back. Hayes felt a tightness in his chest he didn't bother hiding. You were, he said. You just listened. News of the incident spread quickly. A police dog halting a funeral. A young man rescued moments before burial. An attempted cover-up exposed by instinct no amount of planning could defeat. Rex became a symbol overnight of loyalty, of vigilance, of the quiet truth that life sometimes depends on those who can't speak, but feel. Lane was charged. The firm collapsed under investigation. And Ethan Carter lived, but for those who had stood in that funeral hall. The memory never faded, the sound of barking cutting through grief, the moment doubt cracked open certainty. The realization that death had been wrong. Rex never returned. To that hall, he didn't need to, because he had already done what heroes do best, stood firm when everyone else believed it was too late, and for the rest of his life. Whenever Ethan heard a dog bark in the distance, he remembered the one who refused to let him disappear. Sometimes, the line between life and death is thin, and sometimes, it has 4 legs, unwavering eyes, and the courage to bark when the world stays silent.